Do you find yourself running out of time to accomplish your work? Are you spending time doing things that you're not that good at? There are effective ways to outsource these tasks so you can focus on your business. This is the Virtual Success Show. We bring the inside scoop on outsourcing success for entrepreneurs by entrepreneurs. And now, here are your hosts, Matt Maloof and Barbara Turley.
Hey everyone, and welcome back to another episode of Virtual Success. I'm your host, Barbara Turley today, and I'm not joined today by my co-host, Matt Maloof, who's normally on the show with me, but given I've just had a baby and Matt has taken on a whole raft of new clients and businesses, and as business goes, schedules are very hard to line up, so I'm doing the show solo today. But I'm quite excited because somebody that I've been following online for quite a long time is Nathan Chan, who is the founder of Foundr Magazine, an absolute amazing magazine for entrepreneurs with a huge Instagram following. And actually where I found Nathan was on Instagram. And I'm very excited today to have Nathan on the show to talk about how he's using virtual teams in his business and has been using them to really scale a fantastic platform, both digitally and internally as well. Nathan, welcome to the show.
Thank you so much for having me, Barbara. I also just realized we have a mutual friend, Yarrow Starak.
Ah, Yarrow. We'll have to get Yarrow on the show, actually. Yes, Yarrow and I are really good friends. Yes, it's a small world in digital land.
Yeah, it is. He's a great guy.
He is indeed. He is indeed. So, Nathan, I found you probably, I think it was in the early days of when Foundr Magazine kind of first launched. And I did find you on Instagram because you do have an amazing Instagram strategy, and it's something I know that you talk a lot about. But can you tell me a little bit first, just let's start off with your sort of entrepreneurial journey, the quick 2 minutes on, your background and how did Foundr Magazine come about?
Yeah, sure thing. So I started it March 2013 while I was working my day job, just as a side hustle passion project. Never thought it would be this big media startup or any platform or anything of the sort.
So did you I love that. So you just started it as a sort of a hobby sort of thing and had no idea, no plan for this big platform that it's become?
No, not at all. So I launched it while I was working my day job and was looking for a job in marketing. And I even took the first issue of the magazine with my iPad to some job interviews, but no one would hire me.
I see. That was a stroke of luck in hindsight.
Yeah. So long story short, I started this magazine. I identified that there wasn't really a publication in the space that spoke to aspiring and novice stage entrepreneurs and also young entrepreneurs. And we didn't go print, we went digital. So we're in the App Store and the Google Play Store, purely because I felt that print was a dying trade. Still is to a certain extent, but we're launching a print project that's coming out soon. But that's kind of how we got started. And now 3 years down the track, we have at least 1 million plus people consuming our content every month. And I feel like we're only really just scratching the surface.
Yeah, well, 2013. I mean, we're in 2016 now, and that's an incredible growth trajectory over that time. Oh, look, I could talk to you forever about so many aspects of what you've just said, but obviously to keep on topic, we're here talking about virtual teams. So, were you one of those people who had read Tim Ferriss's 4-Hour Workweek book and thought, well, I'll give this VA thing a whirl? Or how did it start with the virtual team thing for you, or virtual assistants?
Yeah, definitely. It was reading Tim's book that was a real game changer, if not around just virtual teams, but also around the ability of the internet to change the game, that you can get so much leverage. And that's why I wanted to even start a business, was actually because of Tim's book. So that's how it all came about for me. But you're familiar with this online space. That's something that a lot of people talk about, getting VAs, using virtual teams, using, a service like Upwork or, your service, or, there's other, like there's a lot of talk about this new way of working.
Yeah. But in terms of, so your first VA, did you decide, okay, I'm going to do this, or were you doing a lot of the work yourself in the beginning? At what point did you say, I now need to get a VA?
Yeah, so we've always used virtual teams, and we've always just added people. virtual team members to the company as time has gone on. So the first person that I worked with virtually was actually when I first started the magazine 3.5 years ago. His name was Jane Karan, and he actually is just based out of India, and he's our graphic designer. I've even been to his wedding.
Oh, wow. I love
we met
that.
online, and he's been designing the magazine and been doing our brand identity ever since, still to this day. And then as time went on, I hired a few more people. These were people locally here in Melbourne, but then it was time also for us to hire a VA, and that person was from the Philippines. Now, we did have a part-time VA, and this person was recommended to me, and we just managed her through Elance. And what was cool about that is it was just she filled out her timesheet, and she'd just do all sorts of administrative tasks for us. But I think one of the biggest things that I'd love people to take away around building a virtual team and utilizing VAs is when you're first starting out in your business or at any point in time, you have a list of things that you hate doing, and then you have a list of things that you shouldn't be doing. And that was actually some advice that a friend gave me, Chris Ducker, was that you should write a list of the things that you should be doing, the things you shouldn't be doing, and the things you hate doing. And all those things that you don't like doing or shouldn't be doing, they're the kind of things that you need to look to find leverage with. So what we started doing was every single one of those things that I shouldn't be doing or didn't enjoy doing, I started to delegate them. And the way I would delegate them was I'd use a tool like Sweet Process, which is just a great little, I don't even know what you call it, like a repository.
I know, yeah, like
there.
it creates step-by-step processes for you.
Yeah. So it allows you to create SOPs, and I would just record, and I would just record a video. I'd get that VA to actually, before she'd even do the actual task, I'd get her to watch the video, break it down, and create an SOP out of it in Sweet Process. And then from there, that's I just went through my list, and then that's how I started. And now we have 2 full-time VAs.
Yeah, so I just want to focus a little bit on this SOP, standard operating procedure thing, because what we find is a lot of clients come in and they want to hire a VA that can use their own initiative to come up with this stuff themselves, which of course is setting yourself up for complete failure from day one. But what you're saying there is you created a video. I mean, the first step though there is that you need to know what it is that you want done and how it's to be done. Would that be fair to say, so that you can create the video that they can then create the operating process?
Yeah, I think the biggest thing is really challenging yourself to really look inside what you do every single day. So you should be tracking your time. There's a tool you can use called Rescue Time, which is a great tool where you can track your time and seeing where your time is being spent. And it's just a little thing that you install on your computer and you can track your time. But yeah, the first thing you need to do is reclaim and understand what it is you're doing on a day-to-day basis. And this is what's going to give you more leverage. And then from that list and work out what you're doing, there'll be certain things that you do as an owner that you probably shouldn't be doing, or things that can be outsourced or handed over to someone else. And once you have that list, you just do it as if you would normally do it, but just record yourself and break it down. But you're right in the sense that I think there are a lot of people that are very naive, that they think if they get a virtual assistant or somebody virtually, that they can just take all their problems away, and they're just going to wave a magical wand. But this is something that's a really big takeaway I had in the early days, is you have to be extremely specific. When you work with virtual teams, especially virtual assistants in the Philippines, you have to be so specific. You cannot expect anyone to, any of those guys to work things out unless you show them, because it's a cultural thing too, that it's all about clear instructions. Don't leave anything to chance.
I think I've seen a few people as well, because sometimes I look through task lists when there's problems and stuff, and I see things like assumptions being made, and clients would say things like, well, I assumed they would know I was talking about X. And, I would say, well, that might seem clear to you, but to someone else, it may not be because they're not in your business, or they're not, until they're working with you a long time, people don't know your style. They don't know how you think. So, and I think the mind reading thing is a huge problem with people in this space. So how long did it take you, do you think, to create your list? Because I think one of the issues is that people come to me and they say, I need a VA yesterday. I'm desperate. I need a VA yesterday. And I think, well, that's probably not going to solve the problem, because you're now taking on a new task of a person when you haven't created all this other stuff that you need in order to get success. So how long do you think it took you to decipher your list? Forgetting the videos yet.
Yeah. So the list of things that I'd get that VA to do, probably took me about a couple of days, no more than a couple of days. And I think if you're feeling overwhelmed right now, I think it's always good to throw your hat over the fence in a situation like this, where that would be, use a recruitment service, or use a service like yours, Barbara, and be like, okay, well, I know I'm overwhelmed. I know I can get more help. I know, utilizing a virtual assistant will cost me, anywhere between, let's say, $500 to $2,000 a month. I can afford that. Let's just use a service like Barbara's. I don't even know what I need yet, and so just the fact of, throwing your hat over the fence, committing, putting some money down, using that recruitment service or whatever, and then that's going to force you to create that list pretty quickly.
Yeah, well, we actually give people a list because we found that it's so difficult for them to create it that we have created one for them. But I do love that idea of rescue time. I think that's very effective to also spot the other things that might be specific to your business that we may not pick up or whatever, because every business has its own different nuances. And then with the videos, so I love that you spent this time doing this though, so you create your list and then you created a video for each task on that list of how you like things to be done. So It means you maintain control then over how things are done in your business.
Yeah, and I think with VAs it always has to be that way. You'll find that VAs tend to, I guess, they just they work really, really well with processes, and they feel more comfortable.
Yeah, they do. Yeah.
From a cultural standpoint as well, they feel more comfortable if they can see, they have the proper training to do what needs to be done.
Yeah.
I think that's really, really key and important.
And what about, so obviously the next step then, I mean, for me would be, you create processes. And then you sort of have to test drive that process, because often, I mean, I wonder, did you find this when you give a process to someone and a mistake happens, there can be holes in your process that you didn't realize. So how do you, have your processes evolved as you've worked with your virtual teams?
Yes, yeah, of course. But I was lucky enough though that at my job before I went full time on Foundr, I was tasked with doing a lot of processes and stuff.
I think you obviously had a background in this, because a lot of people find it very difficult. You found it easy, and actually so do I. But I have noticed that the majority of people out there find this quite challenging. So it sounds easy, but it's quite challenging to do it.
Yeah, I think the most challenging thing for me is I don't enjoy it, so it's not fun.
Yeah.
But it just has to get done. And I, had a boss that just absolutely hammered it into me that the processes have to be so clear, so to the point that there's no room for interpretation. That's literally do X, screenshot with an arrow pointing to it, with writing, and do Y and do Z, and put in a video as well so people can watch the whole video as well, of a screen share of you doing it and talking that person through it. So there's marginally a little room for error, and if there is, it's generally the processor's fault, not the human error. Yeah.
I love that you said that. And what I want to ask is, your old boss, were there any offshore staff in that business, or was it local staff?
So I've only ever had 2 full-time jobs in corporate. The first one that really drilled it into me, there was no offshore staff. But the second job that I had, the last job I had before I left to go full-time on Foundr, there was offshore staff. Yes, there was heaps.
Okay, because the point I would like to highlight for the listeners here is that, yes, we're talking about virtual assistants, virtual teams, but this applies to, it doesn't actually matter, because some people think that we just have to be this diligent because people are in the Philippines or in India or whatever. But my view is that if you're running a business, you need to be that descriptive anyway with your internal processes, so that you can literally promote people and plug a new person in straight away, pretty simply, to your business.
Yeah, 100%. This is how you scale, Barbara.
Yeah.
Like, yeah,
This is how you scale. Yeah.
yeah. This is how you scale. If you don't do this stuff, you will struggle. And I want to be very clear. We are our business, because we move quite fast. We are growing at a reasonably good rate. Sometimes it is difficult to keep on top of this, and our founder within the business. It's not perfect. Our business is definitely not a business packaged up in a box that could be sold tomorrow, but there is 75% of the work is there and it's done.
Yeah, that's a great point. So I think that's one of the key things I want people to understand, because we see people blaming the VA all the time. Now, obviously you can get, you've got to get a quality person on your team, but if the person's a good person and they're trying their best and whatever, usually the process is where the problem lies, or in the iterations of the process, in understanding that process. So moving on from there, so your first VA, so how about, have you still got you've gone from having a virtual assistant to having two, and I believe now you've sort of built a virtual team as opposed to just virtual VAs. So talk to me about the growth from there.
Yeah, so pretty much as time has gone on, we've always used a lot of contractors ever since I started Foundr. And now some of those contractors and all sorts of other contractors we actually have as full-time team members, but they work remotely. So we have someone in Canada, we have someone in the States, we're always pulling resources. So we have a very remote kind of team. We have the core team, the HQ here in Melbourne, but yeah, we're using all sorts of people from all around the world to do all sorts of different things. Now, there's a few different ways that I look at it. The first way is we pull talent and resources for certain key projects. So I mentioned to you before that one of our biggest focuses at the moment that we're putting a lot of attention towards as a whole team and a company is, and this is out of our business as usual stuff, is this Kickstarter book that we're launching. So it's like the past 3.5 years of interviews with like Richard Branson, Ariana Huffington, Seth Godin, you name it, all compiled, our best stuff, thousands of hours worth of content into this physical coffee table book that we're going to crowdfund over Kickstarter. So we've pulled resources and contractors and some people in the internal team here to this project, and we manage that all through Trello. Yeah. Now, that project can be specific to certain people that might be virtual, they might be contractors. We've got a landing person that does the landing pages. We've got a video team. We've got a project manager that's a contractor that lives in Sydney. So we've got all these different people. So that's how we manage that piece. But then the other side of our business is business as usual, where I call it business as usual stuff, where the weekly podcast, the weekly blogs, the monthly magazine issue. That's our core team deliverables. These are the promises that we make as a brand to our customers and our anyone that's in our community. So we have processes and systems in place to make sure that that's a well-oiled machine, continually run. I don't have to be there; it's just happening. We already know it's happening, and the tools that we use there are either Trello or GetFlow, which is a great tool. We use Slack for communication or Skype. And then we use SOPs for Sweet Process for SOPs. And then pretty much that's about it, Barbara.
Yeah, but that's the thing. I mean, you don't need a lot of different tools. You need a couple of key things. So Trello, big project management tool that works well. We use Asana, but there's multiple different ones out there. Trello is great for this sort of thing. Slack, obviously, for communication. Most of the people we've had on this show are using Slack for good team communication. But what I love about you use the term well-oiled machine for the business as usual stuff. So then you can use your time to be going off and running, being involved in these bigger projects of, the book you're about to release, which sounds fantastic, the Kickstarter campaign. I mean, that's going to require a lot of your time, I would imagine. And that's the stuff that you want to be doing. So you know that the magazine runs well with your team, and you can go and do these things. Now, I want to touch on, before we wrap up, the communication, because obviously there's having your processes, systems, team, delegation, leadership, all that stuff. But what about communication in between? Are you running, daily huddles, weekly? How do you and your team, in two areas, the business as usual stuff and the project stuff, how do you all communicate together and keep it tight?
I love this question because it's something that's never been asked, and I wish I had
so
heard it on the podcast. Yeah, it's so key. No one talks about this stuff.
No.
Okay.
Well, I know, because just from my own perspective, we've worked with a lot of clients on their processes and getting all the other stuff we've just talked about right. And then we noticed that some clients were still failing. It's communication. I just can't even stress it enough how important this is.
Yeah, so I agree 100%. And I had to just pretty much just ask people flat out myself to find out these answers. So we have a few things going on. We do a Monday, and this is for the core team only. We do a Monday. This is a long kind of daily huddle, and it goes for about 30 minutes, and everyone dials in. And that's really important because it gives everyone in the team just an understanding of what's going on, what's the plans for the week, what we're working towards, what's happening in the business. And that's a way for us to alleviate, everyone, we go around to each person and we say, what are you working on? And is there anything holding you back?
Yeah.
And that's where we alleviate any problems that anyone has. And that usually goes for about 30 minutes between 7 to 8 people.
Yeah, so it's quick. It's round the grounds, quick.
Yep,
3 points. Yep.
100%. And then we were doing daily after that, but we stripped it back because I felt it was too much. So we only do daily stand-ups for the core business as usual team 3 times a week, Monday, Tuesday, and Friday.
Yeah, so those are good days. Yeah, Friday to wrap up the week. Yeah.
Yep. And then for projects like this Kickstarter book, for example, we have 1 weekly catch-up, and that's anyone involved in the project, and we work through the Trello board and we do sprints. It's called the Scrum Agile method.
So I love that, yeah.
Yep. So that's how we manage. And we have many projects going on at one time. So and there's always going to be a team leader of that project, and that's kind of like the owner. So for this Kickstarter book project, we have an actual dedicated project manager who's a contractor that's the owner of this project. So she is responsible, and then the rest of us are just getting stuff done.
So you need to have, the key point there I want listeners to understand is that you do need there needs to be a leader of the project. Now, if you're a small business and there's just you and your VA, this still applies, because then you are the leader of the project. Or you could potentially get your VA to be the leader, but then you've got to empower them to be that way. But there always has to be a leader of the project who drives the others, and reporting structures for the communication channels back. Would that be fair to say, Nathan?
Yep, 100%. And you can get Scrum Masters on like an Upwork, and you can get them for like 10 hours a week. It's really cost affordable. So you can get Scrum Masters. That's not a problem.
Scrum Master, I'm going to look into that. Scrum Masters,
yeah. So something to think about. So, that's kind of our communication channels. Plus, we have Slack. So we have Slack and we do Skype. And if people need anything, we're all we're a team. We all help each other out. But for the most part, that's how we manage everything.
Yeah, that's great. That's fantastic. Just such good insights. And we're hearing the same thing from, pretty much the same stuff from every guest that we have on the show. So for the listeners, you're hearing this over and over again. This is the formula for success. And anyone if you're struggling with your virtual team or your VA, just even one VA, it's likely that there are holes in some of these areas for you. So Nathan, just to wrap up, give us the quick few minutes on your upcoming book and the Kickstarter campaign, and how can the listeners get involved?
Yeah, sure thing. So as mentioned, Barbara, we've been around for about 3.5 years. We've been lucky enough to interview and feature and pick the brains of some of the greatest entrepreneurs of our generation. I mentioned a few. There's so many more. So, Gary Vee, Richard Branson, Barbara Corcoran, Arianna Huffington, so many more. And so we've never done a print project. So this is a really fun project. So we're creating this coffee table book, hybrid coffee table book kind of magazine. It's going to be a die-cut front cover, beautifully designed, and just full of actionable stuff. No fluff, hardly
good. So there's
any
steps
story,
in there.
little bit of story, a little bit of background, but mainly actionable stuff. And we've broken it down into sections like team building, hiring, marketing, social media, idea validation, you name it. So it's for any kind of entrepreneur, seasoned, aspiring, novice, you name it. And we're going to crowdfund it and pre-sell it through Kickstarter. And if people want to find out more, you can go to foundrmag, foundrmag.com/book. And the campaign goes live November 15th. And it finishes December 15th.
Great. So we'll put the link in the show notes here. Nathan, thank you so much for your time and your insights and just the amazing story of Foundr. I've actually realized I've been a follower of you since way back. It must be from the very beginning because I've probably found you on Instagram back then. So great to see. I could talk to you forever about so many different topics, but we'll wrap up this particular show today. And for everyone, get involved in Nathan's new book and the Kickstarter campaign. And remember to come back next week for more virtual success. Give us a rating if you enjoyed this show. Make sure you subscribe on iTunes and give us a rating. Tell us what you think of the show and anything that you'd like us to cover. We're all open to ideas. Thanks, Nathan.
Thank you so much, Barbara. Absolute pleasure.
Thank you for listening to the Virtual Success Show. If you found this show helpful, take a moment to share it with a friend so that we can all grow together. Find out more about the inside scoop on outsourcing success by going to our website, virtualsuccessshow.com. Until next time, thanks for listening.